Let's bring in CGTN commentator Victor Gao. He's vice president of the Center for China and Globalization. So, Victor, my first question to you, we heard the white paper basically explains China's side when it comes to WTO commitments, trade, and its economic reform. I want to get your reaction to it and the timing of its release.
I think China's WTO report is a very important document, and the timing of its release is even more important because right now in the world, the United States is taking dramatic measures which actually are afraid will do serious damage to the principle and the integrity of WTO. Ever since China became a member of WTO, China made great contribution to global economic development. And any particular year over the past more than 1 decade, Chinese contribution to the annual GDP growth is always in the neighborhood about 1/3 to almost up to half. And I think this is mainly because China abides by the WTO rules, and the great achievement in China is mainly a result of the sheer hard labor and innovation of the Chinese people and the companies, including foreign invested companies in China. And this is just the opposite of what President Donald Trump has been accusing of China raping the United States, for example, of China stealing jobs and stealing IPR rights from the American companies. So hopefully this Chinese WTO document will help set the record straight for the whole world to see how important WTO is and how important each member state need to abide by the WTO rules rather than putting itself on top of the WTO.
So that being said, we're just about a week away from a July 6th deadline for the U.S. to impose tariffs on $34 billion in Chinese goods. Do you think that the white paper will help the situation? And in negotiations, where do you think things stand at the moment?
At the moment, I think we are on the verge of the largest trade war ever in world history. If the United States put into action what President Donald Trump had threatened over the past several weeks, we are going to see trade war launched by the United States in the neighborhood of tariffs on $50 billion of trade, $100 billion worth of Chinese export to the United States, or even $200 billion worth of Chinese export to the United States. And the Chinese government has indicated very clearly that China will retaliate. Some people in Washington do the small calculation, and they tend to believe that because U.S. imports less from China than China exports to the United States, China will soon run out of ammunition if China measures the retaliation in the amount of the U.S. Tariffs. However, I would say, while China does have less of a target in the form of U.S. export to China, the U.S. export of services to China is much larger than that of China. And over the decades, the United States companies have invested heavily in China, producing large amount of quantities which are sold not only here in China, but also exported into many other countries, including back to the United States. Therefore, don't do the miscalculation. If the trade war really blows up, China will have enough ammunition to shoot at the United States, and China wants to be a friend of the United States. China does not want to shoot at any innocent company. The only purpose of the Chinese retaliation is to bring the U.S. government back to senses so that they will no longer do the stupid thing and do the indiscriminate thing of imposing tariffs on China and so many other countries. We need to abide by the WTO rule, and all of us will benefit if we abide by the WTO rules.
All right, Victor Gao in Beijing, always great to hear your side. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.